Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to another YouTube video. So this is going to be part 3 of the Aquascape video. I know originally the Aquascape video was supposed to come out like a month after part 2 or like 45 days after part 2. Basically, whenever I thought all the plants would be fully grown in, which usually takes about a month for an Aquascape, high-tech Aquascape to mature. But that didn't happen at all. We'll get to that. We'll get to why that didn't happen in a second. But we're also not only just going to cover what went wrong or what happened to the Aquascape, what caused all these issues that I had, but we're also going to go back and look at what this Aquascape, what the aquarium had in it before. Because I actually had an original high-tech Aquascape that I set up about 8 years ago. So we're going to go look at that, but we're also going to look at how it was also a low-tech planted aquarium for actually many years before I decided to turn into this high-tech Aquascape. So yeah, let's go look at that, and then we'll be back and we'll run through all the equipment that runs this aquarium and how it looks today, at the present day. Let's look at it. Okay guys, so this is the first Aquascape that I ever made. As you can see, just fish-wise, we have like some black neon tetras and some like a couple otocinclus in this. I think at this point maybe there were even some corridors in here. I don't really know. I don't actually see any in this video, but I know at one point I did have some corridors in here, and they kind of help keep the sand clean. But yeah, so this was the first Aquascape I made. And as you can see, I was really inspired by like an Iwagumi kind of setup. I just wanted to try a little bit of both. So we have like baby tears on the left side, dwarf hairgrass on the other side with some stem plants. And as you can see, if you look carefully, you can actually see the stem plants look like they're pretty messed up. And I think it was because at one point I had like red-eyed tetras in here, but they would just destroying the stem plants. So I had to switch out for these black neons. But yeah, so like, as you can see, I was really inspired by just some videos that I watched, and I didn't really have a huge budget for this aquarium, so as you can see, there's like a little mini fluval CO2 system that, you know, you couldn't control. It didn't have a regulator, so you couldn't like control it turning off and on at night. But yeah, so like this was my first ever Aquascape, and yeah, I mean, look at it. It's kind of an interesting setup. Okay guys, so here we have the first version of the low-tech setup that I did for the 20 gallon long. So this one has different fish in it. As you can see, we have rummy nose tetras. I also have some Chinese alligators in this aquarium as well, which we'll see in a second. But this setup was different because it actually had higher lights than the other one, which I have LED floodlights, some DIY LED floodlights that I used for this Aquascape. Which isn't really much of a scape. There's not really much of a composition with this. It just has like a couple pieces of wood and you know, 3 clumps of crypts that I believe were tissue culture, because I just kind of plopped them in and then they would just grow up like how you see them growing right now. Then I have the Rotala rotundifolia in the back with some other stem plants. As you can see, I had a blackbeard algae problem in this aquarium, which at the time I didn't know what that algae was called, but I know it's Blackbeard. But yeah, like look, it's this one doesn't, like I said, not much of a composition, just like a little bit of hardscape, just a very minute amount, kind of just a bunch of crypts, some sedge, and yeah, so it was a very simplistic Aquascape. This one matured pretty cool, I would have to say. And yeah, so this was this setup, this version. Now let's look at the next version, which the next version honestly is probably my favorite version of the low-tech Aquascapes that I did. And here we have the final version of the low-tech 20 gallon long that I did. So this one is like right at the tail end, right before I was going to tear this scape down and just go straight to the high-tech setup. As you can see, I do have the same filter that I have on it currently, which is the Fluval 206, the canister filter. And this is definitely my favorite version of this low-tech scape, just because this is just kind of like straight up jungle scape, you know? Like, I made it to where the kind of foreground to the right side is just like kind of a carpet of very small crypts, while like the main like mountain of like larger crypts, which by the way, these are the same crypts from that previous low-tech setup that I showed you guys. But yeah, this one, same floodlight on top. This one is actually more powerful. I think on the previous version I had like 220 watts, while this one is like 160 watt. So it's a lot more power and it's a lot more focus, so it has a lot more shimmering, and just the plants just grew so well. I did have a slight problem with algae because at the time with this setup I didn't really have a good photo period on this aquascape, but that's one thing I've learned from doing like these planted aquariums recently, is that it's good to have a low photo period, which the photo period means how long the lights are on for the aquascape. So like currently I have 8 hours for each scape, but now this one I had 12 hours, so 4 extra hours for the algae to basically grow pretty much. So yeah, this one, I think it grew in super lush, didn't really have much of a composition, not really much hardscape. Like honestly, currently just looking at this aquascape, if I had the hardscape, I would have definitely had some larger pieces of wood, like maybe even wood coming out of like the pile of crypts pretty much, to make it look a lot more of a composition. As you can see in this one, I had Buenos Aires tetras, which the problem with these is they're also plant eaters, which apparently I just have really bad luck for picking fish, because apparently the fish that I like looking at that I think look cool turn out to all be herbivorous and eat plants, which is fantastic. But yeah, so I think the scape turned out really cool. Like I said, not really much of a scape, more of just like a jungle, just naturalistic planted aquarium that's super low tech. This obviously had barely any maintenance. Like all I did was have to trim the crypts every like 6 months almost, pretty much, just to keep the carpet going. But yeah, so now let's actually move on to the actual high-tech aquascape. So you guys want to know what failure looks like in an aquascape? Well, let me show you. So here we have it. This is literally the aquascape of week 3. I thought at this point that like there was nothing more I could do. I tried everything. I literally tried to do everything I possibly could to make this aquascape work. And I'd come to find out I was doing it the wrong way. So this is a diatom outbreak, and diatoms aren't the same as like hair algae or other types of algae that grows in your aquarium. Diatoms feed on silicates mostly, and they kind of don't behave the same way as algae does. Like you can't easily get rid of it by like doing blackouts or things like that. Like mostly it has to do with your silicate level in your water. Now, you know, whenever you're doing this, whenever you have high silicates in your water, means that doing water changes kind of feeds the diatoms, and that's what I was doing for this setup. I was doing water changes I would say every other day, and you know, that's not the way to do it. Like literally what I should have done is just kind of let the aquascape do its thing and get some fish for it, and or get some fish that eat diatoms, which turns out Otocincla, shrimp, like they'll clean up the diatoms no problem. And so that's what I was doing in this video actually. When you're seeing me, the reason I was filming this was to add the fish and shrimp that would most likely do the best job at cleaning up these diatoms. So yeah, that's basically it. As you can see, literally all the fish are in just fine. I had a huge amount of problems with the plants. The plants, literally pretty much all the plants that you're seeing right here in this video, all are ruined, they're dead, they can't grow back. So I had to purchase new plants. "7 weeks after planting, and it still looks like this. Like this, it felt like ages for me to just get through all these algae problems. Like just look at this. Like literally, at this point, we've moved past the diatoms. Now it's more like the diatoms are kind of turning into actual algae and stuff, like actual algae species. I don't know exactly which species this is. I think it's more like the slime algae, but like, man, like just look at all these, just look at all this algae. So at this point, I added Siamese alligators. For the longest time, I was looking for Siamese alligators because like they're literally the best alligator. Oh look, there's like a little water flea in there, in this shot, right next to the shrimp. That's interesting. But yeah, so like these, I had so many issues just finding the Siamese alligator. Like it took so long to find them. I was trying to find them locally, but then I was just like, you know what, screw it. I need to actually get this fish. So, funny story though. So I decided to order them from the store online called Arizona Gardens. Turns it comes to find out, this store has literally people that they staff who have no idea, know nothing about plants. They also seem to know nothing about running a business for like a consumer side of things. Like they treat the customers like garbage. Like literally, they sent me like basically dead plants, dead Rotala Wallichii. They also sent me the wrong species of fish. Like I ordered Siamese alligators. They sent me flying foxes, like 4 flying foxes and 2 Siamese alligators. So like I had so many issues with this company. I ordered, like literally they split up the order as well. I never received some plants. Like I ordered Blyxa Japonica from them. Never actually received it. I did receive a refund from these for these things that I'm complaining about though. So it's not like they completely scanned me out of what I ordered, but they didn't exactly provide what I ordered to begin with. So I'm still kind of salty about that. So yeah, these fish, here's some kind of update on the Galaxy Danios. So you can see like from like what we just saw a little bit ago, look at them now. They're growing quite a bit. So yeah, at this point I decided to get the Siamese alligators, you know, try to fight the algae. I also got some fast growing stem plants, which is Rotala Nanjenshan, I believe it's what it's called. And so I was hoping with the fast growing plants that they would just kind of outcompete the algae. But yeah, so that's where we are in this update for this particular date. Now let's move on to the next one. Okay, so here we have actually literally just a week later from the last update we had. So this is a week later after that, 16th of February. And so as you can see, like literally just a week, look at how much algae is gone. Like this is just what patience looks like, you know? You just gotta keep working at it. You just gotta keep removing the algae when you can, doing water changes, making sure you have the right livestock in the aquarium to really get rid of that algae to begin with. So yeah, so this is like, as you can see, I actually added some like the I think it's albedo red Catherinae in the front. Sadly, it didn't do that well. I think I got literally eaten completely, just completely destroyed by both the shrimp, and I think I might have also kind of withered away as well, because crypts have this nasty tendency of melting away for no reason whenever, well actually the reason is that it changes water quality, but or like it goes from the submerged state to emerged state. But basically they melted away. It tried sending up leaves, but the leaves got eaten off, and there was nothing that could be done for it, so sadly it's, you know, it's gone. But yeah, so like the fish are doing fantastic. As you can see, they're growing, they're looking fat, looking super colorful. Less and less algae, but the plants are still not fully grown in, and there's still algae going on in this aquarium. So let's go on to the next update. Now this is what we're talking about, you know, like this is where some real progress is starting to show up from just all this work I've been putting into doing water changes, getting rid of as much algae as I can, you know, just putting everything I can to making this aquascape work. This is literally a month after the last update, so a lot of this changed. Obviously, we have a bunch of plants growing in a lot thicker. We have the plants looking bigger, healthier. We have a much healthier looking aquascape. So yeah, let's move on to the next update so we can see even more progress. So here we go. After all this time of hard work, of water changes, cleaning everything, adding more plants, trying to find the right balance, we're finally getting to a stage where literally all it needs is time for the plants to grow in. Like as you can see, carpeting plants, not fully carpeted. We got a little bit of not the greatest coverage on the far right with the Alternanthera reineckii mini. You know, like it could be a little bit denser. You know, like there's just little things here. Like this is just a little bit of composition. You know, like we have some dead zones, like kind of like the front left where that crypt Wentii is growing. That crypt needs to, you know, kind of fill in a little bit more. And yeah, like just, but other than that, literally so much progress has been made over this time. I hope you guys liked this huge like timeline almost of how everything went down. I hope you guys appreciated the time I put into this. or that I'm even willing to show you guys. Because, like I said, some aquascapers kind of brush this stuff under the rug, you know, like they just decided not to show where they went wrong, you know, like the difficulties that they had to reach the final product. So yeah, let's move on to the actual video and showing the current version of the Aquascape. Okay guys, so here it is. Here is the Aquascape. I think what we're going to start with, going through this Aquascape while we start running through it, we'll just go from the top and down pretty much for all the equipment. So let's look at these lights. So let's just like back up for a second and just see just how bright these lights are. Like literally the amount of light on this aquarium is probably way more overkill than what I actually need for this kind of aquarium. But at the time, this was kind of like my only option for lighting, and honestly I just wanted to test to see like what happens when you do a really highly lit aquarium, because I've seen that whenever you have highly, like just a ton of light on an aquarium, the plants grow a whole lot different compared to if they were just a little bit less intensity light than this. And what that means is basically the plants just grow more compact. They can have different like colors, like how they grow. They can have different leaf shapes and stuff. Like there's so many things that are different whenever you have a ton of light on an aquascape like what I have here. But let's look at these lights. So literally each of these lights is, I think, 20 watts or something. I don't know, but these are some really powerful lights. Like literally we get this thermometer here and I could just show you like just how much heat is coming off of these. Like look, the amount of heat coming off of these is 128 degrees. Like that's a ton of heat. That means that each one of these puts out so much power that it's just, yeah, like you can tell, like just look at how green everything is. Look at how compact the Staurogyne repens is growing. Like it's pretty interesting. We'll go into more detail of the plant growth soon. But yeah, so like literally what we have on this, 2 normal white LEDs. So I think these are running at 8K or 10K. It's like either 8 to 10K. And then the middle one is a full spectrum, which means that it basically has red, blue, green, yellow, just pretty much all the different primary colors that make up actual light. So kind of the point of the full spectrum light bar is that it just adds more color to both the plants and the fish. Now that we covered all the lighting, let's look at the filters now. So this filter system that I have running is a canister filter. It's a Fluval 206, and if it would focus, okay, it's not gonna focus, but yeah, it's a Fluval 206, and what I have running on it is, as far as equipment, we have an inline heater, which is a Hydor ETH 200, which is a 200 watt inline heater. It's designed for aquariums this size. And this is actually the first time I've ever used an inline heater before, and I found that one, you know, you don't have extra equipment inside the aquarium, so it makes it look cleaner, but it also seems to be very efficient. Like it keeps the aquarium at the perfect temperature 100% of the time. So to control the inline heater, I'm actually using a micro temp controller. Now this micro temp controller is good for 2 reasons. One, it guarantees that the temperature stays what I want it to be. But it also is cool because it shows me the temperature that the aquarium is. Like right now, it's 25 degrees Celsius, which is about, I think, 78 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's literally the ideal temperature for, I'm running into the aquarium behind me. It's the ideal temperature for aquascapes. And for those who don't know, the temperature of the aquarium kind of dictates how quick algae grows, how quick plants grow, how like the digestive systems for the livestock inside. Like literally, if the temperatures are lower, it kind of slows down their process of processing food and, you know, using the energy pretty much. So yeah, so in theory, the best temperature for aquascapes is like 75 degrees, which sadly I can't really control that because my room has lights, it's just computers, you know. It's like, it's really hard to control the temperature in my room, but it usually stays super consistent, even though that consistent temperature is not 75 degrees. But yeah, so that's how I control the temperature of this aquarium. So back to the filter stats. So the filter 206 is designed for aquariums that are about 40 gallons in size. But, so I have it on a 20 gallon, obviously. So it does a really good job keeping it crystal clear. As far as the glassware that goes into the aquarium, I have the Jardley, I think it's a Jardley outlet. Inlet. A Jardley inlet with the skimmer, and then a Jardley output that, just puts the water back into the aquarium after it goes through the filter. So yeah, it's a very efficient, effective system that I got going here. I really like the skimmer because honestly, I've never used a skimmer on an aquarium, and just look at how clear that water surface is. Like using a surface skimmer for a freshwater aquarium is not only good for just looks, look at it, it's like a mirror, it's crystal clear. And then when you look from underneath, it's just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous looking at the reflections. It's super, super cool. But it's also has an actual function. When you have a clear surface, it literally helps the gas exchange. So oxygen dissolving out of the water and CO2 dissolving out of the water, it helps just the gas exchange pretty much. So yeah, basically it's super, super important to have a clear surface, because if you don't have a clean surface, you might not have the best gas exchange. So CO2 can get trapped in the water and cause your CO2 levels to increase, or literally just, you can't really have too much oxygen, but in an aquascape, when you have too much oxygen, it can kind of hurt plant growth and encourage a lot of algae growth and problems. But yeah, so that's the whole filter setup that I have for this aquascape. I guess the next thing, since it literally just turned on there for a second, is the Twin Star. I have a Twin Star M5 in this aquascape, and the purpose of a Twin Star is it's supposed to sterilize the water and kind of kill algae spores pretty much to help prevent algae from growing. It doesn't really get rid of algae, but it helps prevent algae from starting to begin with. So it's one thing that's kind of up for debate, is if these Twin Star water sterilizers actually prevent algae from growing. My opinion on the matter is literally, if your aquarium's not in balance, most likely you will have algae grow, even if you have the a water sterilizer from Twin Star. So you can't really prevent it that way. But in this case, for this aquascape, honestly, it kind of helped, but at the same time, honestly, I don't really know. It's hard to say. But yeah, you guys will see. You guys already saw. If I had to say one mistake for the equipment order that I purchased things in, I kind of wish I got the Twin Star first, just to see if it actually would prevent all those diatom issues that I had in this aquascape, along with other things. So yeah. So we discussed that. I guess the next thing we could discuss is the CO2 system that I have going on here. So let's start with the diffuser. The diffuser is an Aquario Neo diffuser. So as you can see, it does a really good job at diffusing the CO2 in the water. And then we got another piece of glassware back here, a Jardley bubble counter, and we also have a drop check to measure the CO2. And obviously, when it's green, that means that you have good CO2 levels. That means that you don't have too much CO2 and you don't have too low amount of CO2. Now, let's look at the actual CO2 system. So this CO2 system, it's kind of hidden behind the aquarium, but the regulator is a UNS mini regulator, and the reason I purchased this setup is just because it was the cheapest one that could actually support the size of aquarium that I have. So yeah, so it has a paintball adapter, so I can connect it to paintball tanks. Here's an example of one of the paintball tanks, just out in the open. It's a 20-ounce CO2 tank, so it does a really good job at just, lasting a decent amount of time. Now, some of you guys might not know the purpose of what actually is the reason of having CO2 or having a CO2 regulator to begin with, but the reason CO2 regulators are so important for an aquascape is that you can actually control when the CO2 turns on and when it turns off. with like a timer. So literally you can set a timer for it to be on, let's say, the same hours as your lights, as your photo period is for the Aquascape. And so I have my lights are on 8 hours for this Aquascape. So that means that I'll probably have the CO2 start 1 to 2 hours before the lights turn on, just to get those CO2 levels started, so that right when the lights turn on, the plants will have plenty of CO2 to do their photosynthesis. But yeah, it's a really good system. I've never had a regulator. I've never had an actual CO2 regulator system. Like, as you guys saw in the earlier footage, literally my last CO2 system was just a super cheap, like, mini system from, I think it was Fluval. And that was my only setup for CO2 that I've ever had, other than this setup. And this setup, night and day difference. It's so worth the money to get a good CO2 system. Okay, so now let's talk about the fish and plants. So let's get a nice little seat right here going. So funny thing is, I already filmed this once, but I didn't have the mic set up properly, so you could barely hear me. So I gotta refilm this entire thing. So here we go. Let's start with the plants. So as you guys can see, the plant selection has definitely changed since the original planting of this entire aquarium. As you guys would remember, like, literally the main plants I started with was Hemianthus cuba. We started with the dwarf hairgrass. We started with the Staurogyne repens, the Anubias, and the Alternanthera reineckii mini. But as you guys can tell, we have a lot more plants here. We have some Catherinae wentii here, which we have a couple different varieties. We have the Tropica variety. I think we have some green variety in here as well. Like, here's some green variety. And then I also have added some Pogostemon helferi, which is in multiple spots. We got some here. We got some in the back there. So yeah, it's quite... I've definitely changed the layout quite a bit, because one thing that I really wanted was a complex composition for this. Like, normally when you have an Iwagumi setup, you have 2-3 species of plants, but I personally really enjoy actual nature, which you have like so many different species of plants like in one area. So that's why I went with, so we have, okay, let's just count species. Hemianthus cuba, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I guess there'll be 10, I think it'd be 9 or 10 species of plants in here. And so let's go through the species. We got Helanthium Tenellum, which is this like larger grass plant right here. We have some beautiful Bucephalandra in here. See, look at those colors under the highlights. Like, it's just beautiful. It's just such a nice color. Sadly, these over here are kind of covered with green spot algae, but hopefully I can get a handle of this green spot algae soon. But yeah, so we got the Bucephalandra mini, I think it's called Catherine mini, I believe. So the Catherine mini is a really cool looking plant. Like, I don't know why, but this structure of leaf where it's just like so long and slender and wavy, it's just like such a cool look. It looks so beautiful. And especially the way it grows under high lights. Like, it's a nice purple, red, pink color. And then, as you can see, we added a bunch of stem plant species. So we got this species up here, which is more of like a green or a really light green color. But this is Rotala Nanjenshan, I believe, is what it was advertised as. Honestly, it could just be Rotala rotundifolia, but I don't really know for sure what species of Rotala that is. I'll put the name on screen for the exact species name of what I purchased it as, but like I said, I don't actually trust that company that I purchased it from, so it could be something else. But we do have the Rotala Wallichii. I'm not really good with that name. I don't really remember off the top of my head, but I'll put it on screen for the red stem plant as well, which that's a beautiful stem plant. I really like the red color. So we got more of that same species up here on the left side, but we have Rotala H'Ra on the right. And then, yeah, so those are the stem plant species. I already mentioned the Pogostemon helferi. So this kind of bush right here, which is kind of getting a little bit overgrown by the
baby tears and Monte Carlo. This is the Staurogyne repens. As you can see, because it's grown under such high light, it's just super, super compact. And it doesn't really grow that high. Like, this is literally the growth, like, yeah, it just doesn't change height that much. It just stays this length. So, yeah, let's see. I guess one interesting observation. Oh, you know what? I actually forgot this plant. This plant right here is Blyxa Japonica. It's not really growing that well. It used to look a lot better, but then it just kind of died back a little bit, and now it's coming back again. It's really weird. It's a really strange plant. It's not really growing the way I wanted it to. I was hoping it'd be like a nice big bush of grass by now, but it's taking its time. Okay, so then we might as well talk about the moss next. The moss is just Christmas moss, and yeah, so I have it growing in a few spots. We have it growing here. We have it growing on that wall right there, kind of like on top and below, if it would focus. So honestly, that moss patch is kind of like a weird color. And then we got more moss on this side. So yeah, we got moss growing in multiple spots. So before I was really cut off by my camera, let's talk about these plants over here. So the Eleocharis parva, which is like the dwarf hairgrass that I have on both the right and left side, isn't growing nearly as well I thought it was gonna grow in this setup. Honestly, I thought this kind of grass would probably be like the go-to plant that would just take off and just grow really well, but look at it. It's not nearly as lush as I thought it was gonna be, and it just seems like it's just not doing that well. It's just not doing that hot, which is very odd. I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, so we talked about all the plants. So I guess the next thing what we would discuss would be the fish. Let's talk about the livestock and the shrimp and stuff. So as you can see, look at that little shrimp up there. Just like going crazy. Look at it go. Man, I've never kept shrimp before, but this is so interesting watching the shrimp behave. So we'll start at the front. Start with the basic ones that like all aquascapes seems like you have to have these in an aquascape. This is the Amano shrimp. They're probably the best shrimp for eating algae that you can get on the market. There are probably a few others that are comparable, but this is like the cheapest and the best one. And they don't breed, it's really interesting, but they don't breed in fresh water. They can only breed if they're, it's weird, it's like, they can breed, like they can lay eggs and stuff, but the eggs can only hatch if it's brackish water, which is very interesting. Like this one, look, this is a larger one. Look, it has eggs, but like these will not hatch because it can't get to brackish water. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting shrimp. So basically, if you have an aquascape going on for long enough, you're gonna have to resupply your Amano shrimp after a certain period if you have one going on for like years and years. But yeah, so that's pretty interesting. Anyway, so the other fish in the aquascape that control algae, we have Otocinclus catfish. We have like 2 or 3 of them in here. And the other algae controlling fish is that fish in the back that looks really depressed. That's a Siamese algae eater. I used to have 2 of them, but the reason why I look so depressed is I think the other one jumped out recently. So look, it's just sitting there doing nothing. It only comes out to eat pretty much, but it like sits there all day. This is like that. This is like in between this like valley. This is where they always like swim around and like played, you know. So it's really interesting to see when one of them jumped out that the other one looks so sad about it. But yeah, so that's that. Let's move on to the other species of shrimp that is much rarer and more expensive than the Amanos. We have diamond blue shrimp in here, which are from the Neocardina family. Which the Neocardinas are really good for hard water, which is what I have here in Texas. Like my tap water, the pH is like 7 or something. So literally, this is like the only species of shrimp that looks like this, that has like really nice colors that I could keep, would be the Neocardinas. If I really wanted to, I could keep the other ones if I wanted to have like an RO water system, but that's a real pain to set up and quite expensive to run. So yeah, I'm not gonna be doing that anytime soon, but eventually we'll do it. So yeah, we have a bunch of those in here, and they have been breeding. So who knows how many actually live in here, but they don't seem that active during the day, or at least on like grazing on on the baby tiers. For some weird reason, they love hanging out in those stem plants at the back. They also like, you know, swimming around, as that one is. But for some reason, they really like being in the roots of these floating plants. I don't know why. It's weird. Like, look, they're just sitting in there. Super interesting behavior. I guess since we're talking about the floating plants, we should actually mention what species they are. They're both Salvinia. One is, I'll just put them both on screen, but one is like a red root floating plant, which has the really cool decorative, like bright red roots, like you can see from this shot. Like, look, they're a nice dark red color basically. And the other one is just like a more basic Salvinia, but it grows like a weed, so it's like, so I have to like constantly be pulling it out of here. Okay, let's talk about the fish, the main, like, I guess the main schooling fish that I have in this aquarium. So this species of fish is the Galaxy Rasbora or Galaxy Danio. It's really confusing because you can find these under both categories. It's super odd. I didn't really do much research on why they're both categorized as Danios and Rasboras. But hey, I'm not a scientist. I'm not gonna question it. We'll just call them Galaxy cool fish with red fins right now, because they're just gorgeous fish. I love the way these fish look. And they also, at one point, I think, did in fact breed in this aquarium. I don't actually know where all the babies went, because I found one in the filter and I didn't find any more. So I don't really know what happened to them. But yeah, as you guys can tell, they're gorgeous fish. Like, and I have 14 of them, unless there's more in here that, you know, growing up, and I'll just magically have more than 14. But for now, my main school of adults is 14. So yeah, as you can see, like, I'll show some footage of them when I first purchased them, when I first added them to the aquarium, like right now, and like look at them now. Like, literally, they're so much larger, and like their colors are just crazy, you know. They're beautiful fish. They are gorgeous fish. So yeah, I think we've kind of covered everything. I don't know what else there would be to cover for this aquarium. If you guys have any questions about this aquascape, let me know in the comments. Or if you have any suggestions about getting rid of the green spot algae, make sure to also put them in the comments, because like here, you know, we're actually starting to get rid of it. But, you know, we'll see if I can get rid of it all. Okay guys, thanks for watching this video. Remember, if you're new here, click that like button below if you enjoyed the video. Sub to the YouTube channel, join the family. I also have a Twitch channel that I stream every single day on, so you can find that link below, as well as my Twitter, which you can follow me on Twitter to see, you know, some sweet pics of what I have going on in my room. So yeah, thanks for watching guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Leave a comment below what you like the best about this, about the aquascape. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next video. Have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.